My family believed my ex's lies during our divorce and cut me off. Then they came back asking to meet my son. I gave them a chance, but what they said and what they refused to admit made me walk away for good. I'm 34 male. This mess started 5 years ago when my marriage imploded in the most spectacular way possible. My ex-wife Amber and I got married young. I was 25, she was 24, met in college, dated for 3 years, got married right after graduation like a couple of idiots who thought love was enough. We met during sophomore year at the University of Nebraska. She was in the business program. I was in engineering. One of those chance encounters at a campus coffee shop where she spilled her latte on my thermodynamics textbook. She bought me a replacement coffee. We started talking, and somehow 3 hours disappeared while we sat there discussing everything from career goals to favorite childhood cartoons. The early relationship was good, really good. She was ambitious, driven, had this energy that made you want to be around her. I was the steady one, the guy who showed up on time and followed through on promises. We balanced each other out, or so I thought. Proposal happened during a weekend trip to Colorado. Nothing fancy, just us hiking in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I got down on one knee at this overlook with the mountains stretching forever behind us. She cried, said yes, and we spent that night planning our future like we had it all figured out. The wedding was small, about 80 people, mostly family and close friends. My parents went all out, paid for the venue, the catering, everything. They loved Amber from day one, treated her like she was already part of the family. Dad would joke about finally having someone in the family who understood business, since I was just an engineer. Mom would take her shopping, invite her to book club meetings, include her in every family event. For the first few years, everything seemed fine. We had the starter apartment with the leaky faucet I kept meaning to fix, the matching his and hers coffee mugs Amber picked out, the Sunday morning farmers market routine where we'd pretend we were the kind of people who made their own kombucha. Looking back, I was playing house while she was already planning her exit strategy. But at the time, it felt real. We talked about buying a house, starting a family, all the normal married couple stuff. I worked long hours but figured that's what you did when building a career. She traveled for work, but that's pharmaceutical sales. Everyone knows it requires constant client schmoozing and conference attendance. I worked as a mechanical engineer at a manufacturing plant about 40 minutes from home. Long hours, decent pay, stable career path, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave us a comfortable life. Amber worked in pharmaceutical sales, traveled a lot for conferences, made good commission when she actually closed deals. My family loved her. Mom treated her like the daughter she never had. Dad would spend hours talking to her about his woodworking projects, showing her his workshop like she actually cared. My sister Bailey thought Amber hung the moon, constantly asking for fashion advice, career guidance, all that big sister energy, even though Amber was only 2 years older. The warning signs were there if I'd been paying attention. Amber's business trips got longer and more frequent. She'd come home exhausted, uninterested in talking about her week, started password protecting her phone and laptop for client confidentiality. Our conversations became transactional. Bills to pay, groceries to buy, whose turn to take out the trash. I choked it up to work stress. Pharmaceutical sales are cutthroat, lots of pressure to hit quotas. I figured she needed space to decompress, so I gave it to her. Turns out she needed space to sleep with her regional sales manager. Found out the worst way possible. Came home early from a site inspection that got canceled due to equipment failure. The manufacturing plant we were upgrading had a cooling system malfunction, and they shut down operations for safety reasons. My project manager told everyone to head home. We'd resume Monday. It was a Thursday afternoon around 2 p.m. I'd texted Amber letting her know I was coming home early, asking if she wanted me to grab takeout for an early dinner. She didn't respond, which wasn't unusual. She was probably in meetings or with clients. Pulled into our driveway behind an unfamiliar BMW. Figured it was a neighbor's guest or someone parked in the wrong spot. Our apartment complex was always having parking disputes. I grabbed my work bag and toolbox from the back seat, mentally planning what I'd do with the unexpected free afternoon. Maybe finally fix that leaky faucet or work on my Mustang restoration project in the shared garage. Walked into our bedroom to find my wife and her boss doing exactly what you'd expect. The cliché was almost insulting, like they couldn't have been more original in their betrayal. My wife, the woman I'd promised to love forever, tangled up with Bradley from regional sales on our bed, the one we'd picked out together at that furniture warehouse sale. Time does this weird thing in moments like that. Everything slows down and speeds up simultaneously. I noticed stupid details. His expensive suit jacket hung on our bedroom chair, her clothes in a trail from the doorway, The lunch I'd packed for her that morning sitting unopened on the nightstand. That sandwich I'd made at 6 a.m., turkey and Swiss on wheat bread because she said she was trying to eat healthier. Amber's boss, let's call him Bradley because he had that trust fund energy scrambled for his pants while shouting something about misunderstanding like there was some innocent explanation for why he was naked in my bedroom in the middle of a Thursday afternoon. My wife just stared at me with this deer-in-headlights expression that quickly morphed into calculation. I could literally see her brain working trying to figure out the best angle to play this. I didn't yell or break things. Part of me wanted to flip the nightstand, punch Bradley's perfect teeth scream until my throat was raw. But I just stood there processing that my 7-year marriage had apparently been a joke for who knows how long. 7 years. We'd been together for 10 total, married for 7, and I was standing in my own bedroom watching it all dissolve in real time. Jake, let me explain. Amber started pulling the sheet up like modesty mattered at this point. Explain what? My voice came out flat, emotionless. I'm not stupid. I know what I'm seeing. Bradley was trying to put his pants on while hopping toward the door, nearly falling twice. Under different circumstances, it might have been funny. This isn't... We didn't mean, look man, I'm sorry, get out, I told him. Now. He grabbed his shirt and jacket and practically ran out of the apartment. Heard his BMW start up seconds later, tires squealing as he peeled out of the parking lot like someone escaping a crime scene. Amber was crying now, mascara running down her face. Please, Jake, please let me explain. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I grabbed my keys from where I dropped them. I'm leaving. Don't call me. Don't text me. We're done. Where are you going? We need to talk about this. I stopped at the bedroom door, looked back at her one last time. The woman I'd built my entire adult life around. Who I'd trusted completely. Who I'd planned to have kids with someday. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Then I grabbed my keys, walked out, and drove to my buddy Colin's place. Colin had a spare room and the good sense not to ask questions until I was ready to talk. He opened the door, took one look at my face, and just said, "Come in, I'll order food." Sat on his couch for 6 hours, not talking, just staring at his TV without really seeing it. Colin brought me food I didn't eat, sat next to me in silence. Occasionally checked his phone, but never made me feel like I was imposing. That's real friendship, knowing when someone needs words and when they just need presence. Around midnight, I finally told him what happened. He listened without interrupting. Didn't offer platitudes or try to minimize it. When I finished, he just said, "You're staying here as long as you need. Guest room's yours. I need to find a lawyer." I said, "Monday. Tonight, you just process this. Tomorrow, we'll figure out next steps." That night, lying in Colin's guest bed, I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying every moment of our relationship, looking for warning signs I'd missed. The late meetings that ran later and later, the business trips that seemed to multiply, her password protecting everything for client confidentiality, the way she'd flinch when I touched her phone accidentally, the growing distance between us that I'd attributed to work stress. How long had this been going on? Weeks, months, years? Had our entire marriage been a lie? Or had she just recently decided I wasn't enough anymore? Did it matter? The result was the same. I was lying in someone else's guest bedroom, while my wife was probably calling Bradley, planning their next move, filed for divorce the next day. First thing Monday morning, I walked into a family law office and told them I needed to end my marriage immediately. Nebraska's a no-fault state, so the adultery didn't matter legally, but it sure as hell mattered to me. I wanted out fast, willing to split everything 50-50 just to be done with it. The lawyer, Patricia, was this older woman who'd been practicing family law for 30 years. She looked at me over her reading glasses and asked, "You sure about the 50-50 split? Adultery gives us leverage in negotiations." I don't care about leverage. I care about being free of her as fast as possible. Fair enough, but document everything anyway. People get vindictive during divorces, especially when they're caught doing wrong. She might come after you just to make herself feel better about her choices. Patricia was more right than she knew. That's when Amber's campaign of destruction really kicked into high gear. See, Amber understood something I didn't. Narrative control. She knew that whoever told their story first and loudest would be believed. So she got out ahead of it with a version of events that painted me as the villain and her as the victim. According to Amber's story, I was emotionally abusive, controlling, jealous. I'd been monitoring her phone and emails, accusing her of affairs without evidence, making her life miserable with my paranoia and insecurity. She'd finally found comfort with someone who treated her well, and I'd flown into a rage when I discovered it. The story was so detailed, so convincing that my own family believed every word. Mom called 3 days after I moved out. Her voice was cold, disappointed. She wanted to know how I could treat my wife that way, why I'd let my insecurities ruin a good marriage. When I tried explaining what actually happened, she cut me off. Amber already told us everything. She's devastated. We saw the text messages you sent her. Text messages. That was clever. Amber had shown them texts I'd sent asking where she was if she was okay when she'd be home. Normal spouse texts that could be reframed as controlling and possessive, if you squinted hard enough and wanted to believe the worst. Did you ask to see my side, I asked. We don't need to. Amber's been part of this family for 7 years. We know her character, and apparently they didn't know mine. Dad was next. Showed up at Colin's place unannounced. Told me I needed to apologize to Amber and work on myself before it was too late to save the marriage. When I explained she'd been sleeping with her boss, he actually said, "Well, you must have driven her to it somehow." Driven her to it. Like cheating was an involuntary response to having a spouse who worked long hours. Bailey was the worst, though. My little sister, who I'd protected from bullies in middle school, helped with college applications, co-signed her first apartment lease. She sent me a long text about how disappointed she was in me, how I'd shown my true colors, how she was glad Amber had someone who actually appreciated her. Then she blocked my number. I tried reaching out to extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins I'd grown up with, but Amber had gotten there first. The story was consistent everywhere. Controlling husband destroys marriage through paranoid jealousy. Wife finds happiness elsewhere. Husband can't handle it. My Uncle Dave even suggested I needed professional help to work through my control issues. This from a guy who I'd helped move 3 times and loaned money to when his restaurant business went under. Within 2 weeks, my entire family had cut me off. No returned calls, no responses to emails. Mom blocked me on social media. Dad returned a birthday gift I'd sent him unopened. Bailey changed her emergency contact at work from me to Amber. They chose her. Completely and unequivocally chose her over their own son and brother. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Amber wanted everything. The house, most of the savings, even my truck that I'd owned before the marriage. Her lawyer painted me as financially controlling, emotionally unstable, potentially dangerous. My lawyer was this older woman named Patricia who'd been practicing family law for 30 years. She'd seen every trick in the book and recognized Amber's playbook immediately. "She's trying to provoke you," Patricia explained. "Every unreasonable demand is designed to make you react so she can claim you're volatile and unstable. Don't give her the satisfaction." So I didn't stay calm through every deposition, every mediation session, every ridiculous demand. When Amber's lawyer claimed I'd hidden marital assets, I produced 5 years of bank statements. When they suggested I'd threatened Amber, I provided email records showing I'd only communicated through lawyers after moving out. The judge wasn't impressed with Amber's theatrics. We ended up with a 50-50 split of marital assets, which meant I kept my truck and some savings. Had to sell the house since neither of us could afford it alone. But at least I walked away with enough to start over. The best part, 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Amber got fired. Turns out Bradley was married, and when his wife found out about the affair, she made some calls to HR. Company policy prohibited relationships between managers and direct reports. Both of them got terminated. Heard through the grapevine that Amber and Bradley tried to make it work after that but imploded within 6 months. Hard to build a relationship on the foundation of mutual infidelity and destroyed marriages. But that was cold comfort when I was alone in a studio apartment, estranged from my entire family, eating frozen dinners and trying to figure out what the hell happened to my life. Colin was the only friend who stuck around. Most of our mutual friends sided with Amber or just disappeared because divorce made things awkward. But Colin showed up every week with takeout. Never pushed me to talk, just sat with me through the worst of it. "Your family will come around," he'd say. "When they realize Amber lied, they'll apologize." I wanted to believe him. Spent months waiting for that call, that text, that knock on the door with a tearful apology. It never came. Eventually, I accepted that my family wasn't coming back. They'd made their choice, and I needed to make mine. Keep living or let their betrayal destroy me. I chose to live, threw myself into work, took on extra projects, volunteered for the complicated assignments nobody else wanted, started getting recognized for actually delivering results, got promoted to senior engineer, then to project lead. The money got better, and more importantly, the work gave me something to focus on besides the wreckage of my personal life. Started hitting the gym hard. Needed somewhere to channel all the anger and hurt I was carrying around. Discovered I actually enjoyed lifting heavy things and putting them down. Within a year, I dropped 30 pounds of divorce weight and put on muscle. Felt good to be strong, like I could physically carry the weight of everything that had happened. Moved out of the studio into a decent two-bedroom condo. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Furnished it with stuff I actually liked instead of the compromised beige everything Amber had insisted on. Got a dog German Shepherd named Rex who didn't care about my past and was just happy to have someone throw tennis balls for him. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, predictable mine. Then I met Kayla. We met at a project kickoff meeting. She was the new procurement specialist, and I was the engineering lead. First meeting, she called out a vendor for padding their estimates by 30% and backed it up with competitive bids she'd researched in advance. Watching her dismantle a sleazy contractor's pitch with nothing but spreadsheets and logic was probably the most attractive thing I'd seen in years. After the meeting, she cornered me by the coffee station. "So are all your vendors incompetent, or just the ones who think women can't read financial statements?" "Mostly just incompetent," I replied, though sometimes it's both. We started talking shop, supply chain, logistics, vendor management, the mess that was our company's procurement system. She had ideas for streamlining processes that actually made sense. I had insights into what engineering actually needed versus what we'd been getting. We ended up in the conference room for 2 hours sketching out workflow improvements on the whiteboard. That was 3 years ago. Kayla wasn't like Amber. Didn't play games. Didn't need constant validation. Didn't expect me to read her mind. She said what she meant and meant what she said. When she was upset about something, she told me directly instead of sighing passive-aggressively for days until I figured it out. We took things slow. I was gun-shy about relationships, and she'd been through her own bad breakup. First date was coffee. Second date was a project car show because she wanted to see my Mustang restoration project. Third date was her cooking dinner at her place while I helped prep vegetables and told her about the disaster that was my first marriage. She listened without judgment, asked clarifying questions, then said, "Your ex sounds like a piece of work and your family sounds worse. You deserved better." Just like that. No defending them, no suggesting I must have done something to deserve their abandonment. Just validation that I'd been wronged. We moved in together after a year. She had a house in a quiet neighborhood with a garage big enough for my car projects and a yard for Rex. The place needed work. Dated kitchen bathroom from 1985 yard that was more weeds than grass, but it had good bones. We spent weekends fixing it up together, turning it into something that felt like home. Then last year, Kayla got pregnant. We talked about kids theoretically. I'd always wanted to be a dad, and she liked the idea of a family. But when she showed me the positive pregnancy test, it stopped being theoretical. This was happening. We were going to have a baby. The pregnancy was smooth. No complications, minimal morning sickness, just Kayla gradually getting bigger while complaining her work pants didn't fit anymore. We took the birthing classes, read the books, argued about names until we settled on Oliver for a boy, Hannah for a girl. Oliver Jake was born on a Tuesday morning at 6:43 a.m. 7 pounds 2 ounces lungs that worked perfectly based on his immediate screaming. Kayla handled labor like she handled everything else, methodically and competently, with only minimal profanity directed at me. Holding my son for the first time broke something open inside me. All the walls I'd built to protect myself from more hurt cracked wide open. This tiny person who depended on me for everything. Who had half my DNA and my nose. Who would hopefully get his mom's common sense and my ability to fix things. Colin came to visit in the hospital, brought flowers for Kayla and a stuffed lion for Oliver. "You're going to be a great dad," he said. "Kid's lucky to have you." For the first time in 3 years, I let myself think about my family. My parents would never meet their grandson. Bailey would never be Aunt Bailey. My kid would grow up not knowing an entire half of his family tree because they'd chosen my lying ex-wife over their own blood. Their loss, I told myself. We didn't need them. Except that decision wasn't entirely up to me. 2 weeks after Oliver was born, while I was on paternity leave doing the zombie shuffle between feeding and diaper changes, my phone rang from a number I didn't recognize. "Jake, it's Mom." 3 years of silence, and she opened with, "It's Mom, like we just talked yesterday." I didn't hang up. Should have. But I didn't. Just stood there in the nursery holding my sleeping son, while my mother's voice, still familiar, still capable of making me feel like a kid, getting called to the principal's office, filled the silence. "We heard about the baby," she continued when I didn't respond. "Congratulations. How did you hear?" My voice came out flat. "Well, that doesn't matter. The important thing is we want to meet our grandson. Our grandson, not your son. Not we're sorry for abandoning you. Just straight to claiming ownership of Oliver. After 3 years, that's what you lead with," I asked. "Jake, please. We're family." Whatever happened in the past, a new baby is a fresh start. We want to be part of his life. Whatever happened in the past, I repeated. You mean when my ex-wife lied about me being abusive, and you believed her without question? When I tried to tell you the truth, and you called me a liar, when you blocked me on every platform and returned my birthday gifts that passed? Silence on the other end. Then we thought we were protecting her. You have to understand she was very convincing. I'm your son. I was supposed to be the one you protected. Well, we see things differently now. Amber's life hasn't gone the way she expected, and people are starting to ask questions about her version of events. We realize we may have been hasty in taking sides. May have been hasty. 3 years of estrangement, and they may have been hasty. Who told you about Oliver? I asked again. Bailey saw something on social media. One of your friends posted pictures. Colin must have been Colin posting pictures from the hospital. He was so proud to be Uncle Colin. Probably didn't think about privacy settings or who might see them. We'd like to visit, Mom continued. Meet the baby, talk things through. Dad has been working on a crib in his workshop. It's beautiful, really. He wants Oliver to have something special. 3 years ago, Dad wouldn't even look at me. Now he was building cribs. Let me think about it, I said. Because I couldn't process this conversation while holding a sleeping infant who needed to be put down for a nap. Don't think too long, Mom replied. Babies grow up fast. You don't want him missing out on knowing his grandparents. She hung up before I could respond to that manipulation. Kayla found me still standing in the nursery 10 minutes later. Oliver asleep in his crib, me staring at the wall. Everything okay? She asked. My mom called. They want to meet Oliver. Kayla's expression went through several emotions in rapid succession. Surprise, anger, calculation. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. And are you thinking about it? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell them to go to hell. But another part. I looked at Oliver sleeping peacefully, unaware of the family drama swirling around him. He deserves to know his grandparents right, if they're willing to try. He deserves grandparents who didn't abandon his father for 3 years, Kayla said quietly. He deserves family who will show up for him no matter what. Not people who will bail. The second things get complicated. She was right. I knew she was right. But some stupid, hopeful part of me wanted to believe people could change, that my family could admit they were wrong and we could rebuild something. That hope lasted exactly 4 days. Bailey texted first long message about how she'd always loved me, how the last few years had been hard on everyone, how she wanted to be part of Oliver's life as his aunt. She'd changed jobs, moved to a new apartment, started dating someone serious. All these life updates I'd missed because she'd blocked me. Then came the reveal. I know things ended badly with you and Amber, but we're still friends. She's really gotten her life together, and I think it would be good if we could all move past the drama. Maybe we could all get together sometime. She'd love to meet Oliver, too. I read that message 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. My sister wanted me to be cordial with my cheating ex-wife, the woman who destroyed my marriage and reputation, the woman my family had chosen over me, and she wanted to expose my newborn son to that toxic situation. I showed the message to Kayla. Her response was immediate. Absolutely not. They haven't learned anything I said more to myself than to her. They still think Amber's the victim. They just want access to Oliver without actually acknowledging what they did. So what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? The easy answer was to tell them all to take a hike block. Their numbers move on. Let Oliver grow up without that side of his family. But something kept me from immediately pulling the trigger. Maybe I needed to see them one more time. Needed to know for sure that reconciliation was impossible before I closed that door permanently. I texted Mom back. I texted, you can visit Sunday at 2 p.m. Just you, Dad, and Bailey. 1 hour. If you bring up Amber or try to defend your actions, the visit ends immediately. She responded within minutes. Thank you. We'll be there. Colin came over Saturday night to help me prepare mentally. You sure about this? He asked. Drinking the root beer I kept stocked for him while watching me pace the living room. No, but I need to know if there's anything salvageable. What's your best case scenario? I thought about it. They apologize. Genuinely apologize, not some non-apology about how mistakes were made. They acknowledge they should have believed me, that Amber manipulated them, that they failed me as parents and as a sibling. They accept Kayla and Oliver without conditions. And worst case, they show up expecting everything to go back to normal. They want to play grandparents and aunt without acknowledging the 3-year gap where they treated me like I didn't exist. My money's on door number 2, Colin said. Colin. Yeah, mine too. Sunday arrived with typical spring weather, gray clouds threatening rain wind that made the trees sound angry. Appropriate atmospheric conditions for a family reunion that had terrible idea written all over it. Kayla set up the living room to minimize stress. Oliver would stay in his bouncer within our sight, but not immediately accessible to them. We'd keep it casual in common areas only. No tours of the house, no intimate family moments in the nursery. They were guests, not family until they proved otherwise. At 2:03 p.m., a car pulled into my driveway. Through the window, I watched my parents and sister get out. Mom had aged more, gray hair, new lines around her eyes. Dad moved slower, favoring his left knee. Bailey looked different too. Sharper somehow, wearing business casual instead of her usual boho style. They stood outside for a moment conferring. Then Dad pulled something from the back seat. A wooden rocking horse, beautifully crafted, clearly one of his workshop projects. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find my family standing on the porch holding gifts, wearing nervous smiles, looking like strangers I used to know. "Hi," Mom said. "Thank you for letting us come." I stepped aside to let them in. They filed past into the living room where Kayla waited, standing protectively near Oliver's bouncer. I saw my mom's eyes go immediately to the baby, saw the calculation, the hunger to rush over and scoop him up. "Everyone, this is Kayla," I said. "Kayla, this is my mother, Patricia, my father, Dennis, and my sister, Bailey." Kayla nodded politely but didn't offer to shake hands. She understood this wasn't a friendly meet and greet. "And this is Oliver." I continued gesturing to the bouncer where my son was awake and alert, staring at the ceiling with that intense baby focus that meant absolutely nothing. Mom took a step forward. I moved between her and the baby. "Let's sit down first," I said. "Talk." We arranged ourselves awkwardly. My parents on the couch, Bailey in the armchair, me and Kayla standing like prison guards between them and Oliver. Not the warm family reunion they'd probably envisioned. Dad set the rocking horse down carefully. "I made this for him. Quarter saw oak hand-carved details should last generations." "It's beautiful," Kayla said, because she had manners even when dealing with people who didn't deserve them. Silence settled like dust, everyone waiting for someone else to start. Finally, Mom cleared her throat. "We've missed you. These past 3 years have been difficult." "For everyone," Dad added quickly. "Yes, for everyone," Mom agreed. "But we're here now. That's what matters. We want to move forward." "Move forward," I repeated. "Just skip past everything that happened." Bailey jumped in, playing mediator like always. "Nobody wants to dwell on the past. We all made mistakes. The important thing is we're family, and families work through their issues." "What mistakes did I make?" I asked. The question seemed to catch them off guard. "Well, I mean, communication could have been better," Bailey said carefully. "On all sides. I tried to communicate. I tried to tell you what actually happened. You blocked my number. You were going through a difficult time," Mom said in that placating voice I'd heard growing up. "Emotions were high. We all said things we didn't mean. I never said anything I didn't mean. I told you the truth and you called me a liar." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Look, son, Amber was very convincing. She had evidence, texts, emails, witnesses who said you'd been acting strange. We had to consider her side. Did you consider mine? You were angry, irrational. We thought you needed time to calm down. I caught her sleeping with someone else in our bed. That's not irrational anger. That's normal human response to betrayal." She explained that situation, Mom said quietly. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. She explained it. "What explanation could possibly justify that?" She said you'd been emotionally checked out for months. She found someone who gave her the attention she needed. It wasn't right, but you pushed her to it. There it was. After 3 years after supposedly realizing they'd been wrong, they still blamed me. Kayla stepped forward. "I think you should leave." "Wait, we just got here," Bailey protested. "We haven't even held the baby." "You're not going to," I said. "Because you don't actually want to apologize. You want me to pretend nothing happened so you can play grandparents without acknowledging how badly you screwed up." "We're here, aren't we?" Dad said, spreading his hands. "We're making an effort. That should count for something. Making an effort would have been believing your son 3 years ago. Making an effort would have been asking for my side of the story before cutting me off. This isn't making an effort. This is deciding you want something I have and expecting me to just give it to you." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "How can you be so cruel? We're trying to heal this family. You broke it. You don't get to decide when and how it heals. Jake, please." Bailey stood up. "Think about Oliver. Don't you want him to have grandparents, aunts, and uncles, a full family?" I want him to have people who will show up for him no matter what. People who won't abandon him the second someone tells a convincing lie. People who will believe him even when the truth is uncomfortable. We're those people, Mom insisted. No, you're not. You proved that 3 years ago. Dad's face was red. Now you're being unreasonable. We made a mistake. Fine, but you're asking us to grovel for forgiveness like we committed some unforgivable sin. We're your parents. Show some respect. Respect is earned. You spent 3 years treating me like I didn't exist because my ex-wife lied to you. You never apologized. Even now you're defending her and blaming me. So no, I don't respect you. And no, you don't get to meet my son. You can't do this, Bailey said, voice rising. You can't keep him from his family because of some grudge. Watch me. Outside, the threatening rain finally started falling. Light at first, then heavier. The kind of rain that soaks through clothes in minutes. Mom was crying openly now. Please, we're sorry. We're so sorry. Just give us a chance. If you were actually sorry, you would have called 3 years ago. You would have reached out when Amber's lies started falling apart. You would have admitted you were wrong without waiting until I had something you wanted. This is about revenge, Dad said. You're punishing us. No, this is about protection. I'm protecting my son from people who will hurt him the same way you hurt me. I walked to the door and opened it. Rain blew in, carried by wind that rattled the screen. It's time for you to leave. They stood there frozen, like they couldn't believe this was really happening. Jake's son, please, Dad started. I'm not your son. You made that clear 3 years ago. Now leave before I call the police. Bailey grabbed her purse. This is ridiculous. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is wasting an hour of my Sunday on people who don't deserve it. Mom tried one more time. At least let us leave our phone numbers in case you change your mind. I won't. They filed out into the rain, moving slowly like they still expected me to stop them. Dad grabbed the rocking horse he'd made, struggled with it through the doorway. They stood on the porch, getting soaked, looking back at me with expressions of disbelief and hurt. You're making a mistake, Dad called through the rain. No, you made the mistake 3 years ago. This is the consequence. I closed the door. Through the window, I watched them run to their car, struggling with the wooden horse getting drenched. The car sat in my driveway for a full 5 minutes, engine running, probably arguing about their next move. Finally, it backed out and drove away. The house was quiet, except for Oliver making small baby noises in his bouncer. Kayla wrapped her arms around me from behind. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. And I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying their expectations and finally set them down. Colin called an hour later. How'd it go? About as well as you predicted. They wanted instant forgiveness and access to Oliver without actually acknowledging what they did. So you kicked them out in the rain. Nice touch. Very dramatic. Wasn't planned. Weather just cooperated. You think they'll try again? I looked at Oliver now, sleeping peacefully after his bottle, completely unaware his father had just permanently cut off half his family tree. Probably. But it won't matter. I'm done. Done trying to fix relationships with people who broke them. Done hoping they'd suddenly become the family I needed. Done letting their dysfunction anywhere near my son. Oliver stirred in his sleep, one tiny fist escaping his swaddle. I tucked it back in, marveling at how something so small could make everything else seem unimportant. He'd grow up with one set of grandparents. Kayla's folks who'd welcomed me without hesitation and already treated Oliver like he'd hung the moon. He'd have Uncle Colin and Aunt Lisa Colin's girlfriend who'd become part of our chosen family. He'd have the family we'd built instead of the one I'd been born into. That was enough, more than enough. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Please reconsider. We love you, Mom. I deleted it without responding. Then I blocked the number because some bridges don't need rebuilding. Some relationships aren't worth salvaging, and some people show you exactly who they are when things get difficult.